I had the thought as I was driving the girls to school about charity and, providing bags and school supplies for families who might not be able to afford it. And then my mind went to people who say, well, they should just, pull themselves up from their bootstraps, XYZ, the radically different mindsets of people. And so then I came down to value and worth and just the concepts of those two things. And we have very little worth for each other. We find little value in others sometimes because we do not know the true worth and value of ourselves. And I think that, it's absolutely no accident that when we have low self-worth, we have lower income. That's not to say it's necessarily our fault. That's something that it's a big lesson in my life. I've been dealing with low self-worth a lot of times without even realizing it. I think it was a buried, hidden pattern and belief of mine because I only knew the external side of me, and externally I know what I bring to the table, but internally I did not feel like I was worth what I brought to the table. That people wouldn't value it was my biggest fear. And so I undercharged. I let myself get taken advantage of. I called in experiences where I didn't even get paid. It's that fine line between, of course, it's not my fault that I worked for an employer that didn't pay me, but also the moments that those didn't happen, I could have walked away, and I didn't because I had a belief about myself. Again, unconscious and buried, that this is what I was worth. Of course it tracks that I wouldn't be getting paid because this is how much I'm actually valued, right? And while it is not truth, it is what I believed and therefore what I attracted to me. And it's what I believed on a subconscious level. And not until I started really doing shadow work and just deep awarenesses and understandings and wanting to understand why my life was the way it was I able to see that connection. And so I think as a whole in our society, we have been taught to devalue ourselves. And again, I think we're wildly unaware of it. I think most people don't believe that they are devaluing themselves. There's just this raw, almost like biting at your ankles of this sense of it, but it's unclear as to why. People kind of cap themselves off at like a ceiling, right? Of like, I can't seem to break beyond this ceiling of income. And it's usually because, well, I won't even say usually, it's always because it's reflective of what we think about ourselves on the inside. There is some part of us that we are restricting that's not allowing the abundance to flow in infinitely, because abundance is infinite. It's infinite in all forms, and that applies to money. And so, if we had a belief that we could call in all the money in the world, we absolutely would. And it wouldn't run out. That's the thing. Abundance is infinite, and that applies to money. We have this liminal way of thinking in our culture that, there's only so much of the pie to go around. And that's a societal view that's been ingrained in us, and it's not truth. Because truth is what's universal, a source truth, a universal truth. And the universe teaches us that abundance is infinite. Just look at the universe. It's expanding infinitely, right? There's no edge to the universe. We're not just going to like hit a wall and bounce back, right? So if the universe is always expanding and is in abundance, there's no reason. We are reflections. We are microcosms of the macro. So there is absolutely no reason that we should stop our growth. And we don't. We're always growing. Again, it's our belief systems that are so ingrained in us that we take them as truth. That's the biggest thing. There's subjective truth, there's objective truth, and there's even intersubjective truth, right? Intersubjective truths being what we as a collective have all agreed to be true. Doesn't mean it's objectively true, right? Take the idea of running out of money. We will never actually run out of money. You can't. Like I said, it's abundance will never cease. That's an objective universal truth. But collectively, intersubjectively, we've all agreed that, there's only a finite amount of resources, and therefore we will eventually run out. And because of that, that triggers a sense of worry and concern and fear, which automatically puts up blocks and resistance and negative belief systems that we then have to work on tearing down. So it's just this whole cycle of worth and self-value. We want to help others along their path, absolutely. But just those are my thoughts on the value that we place upon ourselves. We really need to look at why is it that we are stuck in these trappings. We can always make a change. However, change can't come until you have a change in belief, right? The energy has to shift in you before the action and the manifestation will shift. So even if you do take action, if you haven't changed that frequency of belief inside of you, then the action is just going to ring hollow. So just be aware of how you actually value yourself. That negative self-talk, it really does do harm. And try to focus on how collectively we are all valuable and worthy the moment we take our first breath. There's nothing we need to prove. And if we can just let our innate power from within seep out of us in our daily lives, we can radically shift ourselves, right? Our power isn't some magical force, though, I mean, I do believe it's magic because, wow, when people are in their power, it does seem magical. But your inherent power just comes from being in alignment with who you really are. So if that's being your wildly weird self, then be it. Right? If you actually really thrive and feel good about staying within the structure of things and it doesn't feel like it's limiting you, then absolutely do that. There are people on earth that are here for structure and for staying within tradition. That's an energy that is alive on this planet, and they need to follow that in order to be in alignment with themselves. But if you are feeling called to break into new territory and have breakthroughs and new ideas, then you must absolutely follow that. We are all here for our own purposes. And to listen to somebody else's purpose and try to follow that will never bring you into your true power. It can only ever come from within.